football mode. So drive to selected service stations and kickstart your year with lots of amazing giveaways. This is our way of supporting our gallant Black Stars. So starting Sunday 14th January, when you buy fuel or lubricants from selected Total Energy service stations on Ghana match days, you instantly win amazing branded souvenirs. Let's celebrate the passion of football together and win lots of gifts during the 2023 Total Energy's African Cup of Nations. Remember, promo is valid while stocks last. Visit our social media pages, Total Energies GH, for more information. Terms and conditions apply. Let's live football together.
Bafustun.
Hey, morning.
Charlie, morning. So, SDA says we should either have the elections on the first Tuesday of November or first Tuesday of December. Make it the first. Make it because they are not aware of any religious group that considers Tuesday to be their holy day. So what they are doing, what they are saying is that they are thinking of all other religious groups, Muslims, Christians, who might have Friday or Sunday as religious days, but no one has Tuesday.
What if there's a religious group that comes up later and says, "Well, Tuesday is our holy day"?
Then they also write petition. So, but you see, the SDA is quite a big stakeholder in elections itself. They say that on election day, 2,090 church buildings and a lot of their school buildings as well, even more than 2,090, are used as polling centers. Okay. They say some of their church members are used by the Electoral Commission as temporary staff on election day. So they are big stakeholders in this thing. And first of all, their church members being asked to work on their Sabbath, which is Saturday, that first of all would contravene the tenets of their religion. So as for working, there be. But even the voting, they consider to be problematic if it must be done on their Sabbath. And so they are making this proposal of a change, which would require the Constitution to be amended and a non-entrenched clause of the Constitution to be amended. But they are calling for it. They are saying, look, can we do that so that this year we don't have to have Seventh-day Adventists breaching their Sabbath?
And what does it also mean if we're using, let's say, SDA schools, churches? That means we can't use those places for voting. Does that also imply that? Well,
it's a Saturday. They'll be worshipping there in their churches. Maybe not the schools, but the churches, yes.
The churches, so
they'll be worshipping there.
No voting can take place there. Well, like clearly. If it's a center or something.
I suspect that would be a problem.
Well.
Yeah. So, this is what they are proposing.
We voted on a Sunday before, right?
On a Saturday.
On a Sunday?
Yes. We voted on Sunday before. We voted on Saturday before. It did. It happened.
Well, I don't know.
I don't know whether we used any churches on that occasion, but it worked. We've also voted on a Saturday before, even the Saturday that is being protested by the SDA.
And what happened before?
The election happened.
The election happened. Well, I don't know. I just feel we should keep it at 7th. Yeah.
It's a tough one because, religious considerations can really throw things into turmoil. You remember when Tyrone Magai wanted to go to school with his dreadlocks and, people. So in the end, one of the big questions was that what harm does it do to let the person observe their religious, tenets? What harm does it do to let Seventh-day Adventists have Saturday as their Sabbath so that the nation votes on a different day? What harm does it do?
And what happens in future if another group says, well, Tuesday is our day also, so what do we do? Yeah.
What harm does that also do if we then move it to, say, Wednesday? What harm does it do?
Well, the conversation has started.
Yep. And it shall continue. Right now, though, let's be grateful where we can. For the 6 a.m. news, it was brought to us by Total Energies. Total, we go the extra mile for you. Absa Bank Ghana Limited, helping you find a way to get things done. And Millennium Insurance, your trustworthy partner. Now for the Joy Business Report. We're grateful to Glyco Life Travel Insurance. And of course, Africa World Airlines, touching Africa, touching the world.
You're a genius. Hello, good morning. Welcome to the Joy Business Report. Coming up this morning, government to open negotiations with Eurobond holders in London on Monday as it moves to restructure about $13 billion of debt. Meanwhile, government has been advised to remain fiscally disciplined in order to ensure the economy is not hurt in the long run. Also coming up, Bank of Ghana to cut policy rate by 8 percentage points to 22% by the end of the year, a move that will stimulate private sector spending. Details coming up. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us on the Joy Business Report. Special hi to our friends listening in Koforidua on KTU Radio. My name is Darryl Kwao. First up, government is expected to formally open negotiations with Eurobond holders and commercial creditors in London on Monday, January 21. The engagement will target institutional investors that are holding these financial instruments. Now, government is seeking to restructure about $13 billion worth of debts as it is proposing up to 40% interest rate cut. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta admits this negotiation will be a tough one for Ghana.
I'm expecting that we will all negotiate in good faith. I'm looking at the country coming back quicker than later. We have had discussions with Eurobond investors, some of the larger creditors, and there's goodwill.
How quickly are you hoping to also reach any preliminary deal?
You know, I had a very optimistic view to conclude all of these negotiations by end of 2023, which did not happen. So when I look at current situation between concluding the MOU, OCC, and then the process with the Eurobond, I don't know. I guess I give myself latest end of March or something as a goal that we should shoot for to put an end to all of the restructuring.
Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta in that exclusive interview with George Yaffe, which airs on PM Express Business Edition tomorrow, Thursday at 9 p.m. on the Joy News channel. Now, turning to other news, economist Professor Godfrey Bokwe has said that any attempt to increase recurrent expenditure in the 2024 election year to please the electorates will come back to badly hurt the economy. He says there's little space for government to spend in areas that will only encourage consumption without impacting on growth. Professor Bokwe advised the government to be mindful of how it even intends to spend from projected tax revenue.
Okay, we don't need to overspend to win over elections because the consequences of that after the election will come back to bite us as Ghanaians. So, for instance, if government decides that from the second half of this year, July, they are going to increase salaries of public sector workers by, let's say, 30% in the rest of them, and that will be simply because you want to cut voters. Okay, do we have the fiscal space to accommodate that?
You heard economist Professor Godfrey Bokwe. Now, Associate Professor of Finance at the Andrews University in the U.S., Professor Williams Ripra, has cautioned government and other political parties against campaign promises if it wants to remain fiscally disciplined. According to him, it is incumbent on the government to live within its means to sustain economic growth. His advice follows rating agency Fitch's warning that countries without access to international capital markets, including Ghana, will face some challenges. Take a listen.
And especially this is a political season, and political parties must be careful with their campaign messages and promises, knowing that tax revenue will not be able to help us to fulfill those promises. Promises a political party should give or may give must be within what is something that's within our budget. In the past, both parties who have managed Ghana, they've come out with huge promises, and when they come to implement, the funds are not there and they go out to borrow. But this time that we have learned our lessons, it is better to come out with a promise that you can fulfill within our means, the means of Ghana, not to try to borrow too much so that we find ourselves in the mess that we have now.
Associate Professor of Finance at the Andrews University in the US, Professor Williams Pipa. Now, the Bank of Ghana will embark on a sizable monetary easing cycle, cutting the policy rate by a cumulative 800 basis points to 22% by the end of the year. That's forecast by Fitch Solutions. This success follows a substantial moderation of headline inflation. Here's more.
Since 2021, the Bank of Ghana has hiked the benchmark policy rate by 1,150 basis points to 30%. This has restricted access to corporate credit. But with inflation easing substantially, the central bank is expected to embark upon policy easing. However, Fitch Solutions said it usually takes about 12 months for interest rate adjustment to affect the real economy due to the lag in monetary transmission mechanisms. As such, the UK-based firm believes that the Bank of Ghana's dovish monetary policy stance is unlikely to result in a sharp increase in real loan growth, which has remained in contractionary territory over January to August last year. Meanwhile, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana would hold its 116th regular meetings from Tuesday, January 23 to Friday, January 26 to review development in the economy.
Now, some development partners are optimistic and confident in the quick turnaround of the economy this year, following the recent improvements in inflation and some stability in the local currency. Speaking to Joy Business on the prospects of the good target for this year, Chief Economist at the United Nations Development Programme Ghana office, Fatoumata Cisse, said there is a high chance of transformation in the economy this year.
It's an optimistic moment right now to be in Ghana. We have seen the statistics that is presented and how the economy is slowly beginning to turn around. And that optimism, with what the aspirations that we have in the budget, galvanizing many other stakeholders, the chances are indeed high, and we can begin to see light at the end of the tunnel. We are not saying it's all fixed, but as they said, the emphasis of the budget is first of all stabilizing the economy, and then we begin to see growth. We are not seeing retrogression. We see improvements in the inflation rate. We see improvements in GDP growth rate. So I think there's room for us to be optimistic. But
Dr. Fatoumata Cisse, Chief Economist for UNDP Ghana and West Africa. Now, Associate Director, Tax and Regulatory Services at Deloitte Ghana, Wizong Pano, is entreating local businesses to take advantage of some tax exemptions by the government. Speaking on the marketplace on Joy News, Wizong Pano urged businesses to leverage existing tax exemptions to reduce their tax burden.
In a year where you have high tax costs, all companies, all businesses will have to make sure that they are identifying all tax deductions available to them and all tax incentives, and make sure that they are making the most out of it. Local production of sanitary towels will now go at 0% VAT. So companies in that space should make sure that they are taking advantage of that this year and going forward. Then in a high tax environment, businesses should have a tax rate strategy.
You had Wizong Pano, who is Associate Director, Tax and Regulatory Services at Deloitte, speaking on the marketplace as part of the Joy Business Advisory Series. Well, today we'll bring you the Joy Business Van, will feature McFix Engineering, which has created a cocoa pod breaker machine to help solve bean harvesting challenges. Take a listen. A breaker machine crushing tons of cocoa pods within minutes. This could have taken hours and potentially days to finish if it was done manually. The innovative cocoa pod breaker machine was created by Daniel Chumesi and Elizabeth Amwa, who were both trained at the Design and Technology Institute. Both Daniel and Elizabeth hail from cocoa farming communities and understand the challenges with manual crushing of cocoa